Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends and fellow human beings, I trust that you are well and welcome to this webinar presentation where today I will present to you the psychology of the 12 human archetypes, and this will be an extensive webinar with lots for you to discover and learn about yourself. You will learn and discover about human psychology, how your mind actually works, how who you are within is what you project outwards and manifest, and what you discover and learn in this webinar presentation will blow your mind. It will blow your mind wide open, and that's a good thing because you will come to know very important things about you, about others, about life that you didn't know before. Things that will make a huge difference to your perception and your attitude towards life. And so in this webinar, we go far, we go wide, and we go deep. And therefore, you might want to allocate a few hours from your schedule where you are free from distractions, and so that you can really focus your attention on what you're about to learn. So just to reconfirm, in this webinar, you are going to learn about these 12 human archetypes that affect your behavior. These 12 human archetypes are different psychological and behavioral traits that we all have. They are these 12 individual mindsets, 12 different personas that have unique attributes that exist within all human beings. And these 12 different human archetypes represent our innate drives and desires to achieve specific outcomes in our life, with the fundamental need to avoid pain and obtain pleasure. Now, the image that you see of me here, where I am wearing, or rather holding, a mask close to my face, that image is symbolic of the fact that I'm about to reveal to you things about yourself that you weren't aware of, that are hidden from you, that are unconscious to you, where most of who you are is concealed behind the mask of who you think you are, because who you think you are is not necessarily who you actually are. And this will make sense, this will become apparent as we go through this webinar. What is also crucial for you to know is this, that these 12 human archetypes are the reason why you engage with self-abusive and self-sabotaging behaviours that result in negative consequences more than less, where those missteps and mishaps in your life, they cripple your potential to become and do more of the stuff that you truly desire. And by self-abusive, I mean that you have unhealthy habits that degrade you emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. By self-sabotaging, I mean that there are certain things that you are doing or not doing that impedes and limits the experiences, results, and quality of your lifestyle. So is this something that you, in a stand, do you recognize where and how in your life that you do or don't do certain things that results in a bad outcome for you, where perhaps you are continuously making the same bad mistakes, where perhaps you are continuously experiencing the same negative emotions? Because whatever negative situations and emotional states that you continuously experience, where stress, worry, fear, insecurity, trauma, depression, anxiety, loneliness, etc. seem to be these constant companions in your life. Well, these negative situations and emotional states, they can be tracked right back to the traits of the 12 human archetypes. So, whatever it is that you want more of in your life but it never happens, whatever it is that you want less of in your life but it keeps happening, these outcomes will correlate with the psychology and behaviours of the 12 human archetypes. Because as you are about to learn, the 12 human archetypes are unconscious, involuntary, and reactive behavioural patterns and traits where you lack the self-control to make fundamental and lasting changes to your life. And so in this webinar with me, you will learn about the psychology and behavioural traits of the 12 human archetypes. From this webinar, you will become much more knowledgeable and aware of how and where these 12 human archetypes show up in your life to affect your decision-making process and lifestyle outcomes. You will discover the root causes of the negative consequences that take place in your life. From what you learn in this webinar, you will be enlightened, educated, and empowered with the knowledge and awareness that you need to make key breakthrough changes in your life so that you can start to cultivate a life that aligns with your truest, highest, and fullest potential. So, for certain, this is a webinar that you don't want to miss and that you do want to see right through until the end. And at the end of this webinar, I will give you an open invitation to join the Mind Games exclusive membership program and community, which is an online platform created by me that provides you the necessary information and strategies to cultivate mental and lifestyle wealth creation. And it's mental and lifestyle creation together because you can't have one without the other. Because the game of life is first won or lost inside the mind, where the quality of your lifestyle does result from the quality of your psychology. Which now brings me to, who am I? Who am I, and why should you listen to me and trust me? Well, let me first properly introduce myself. My full name is Russell Paul Arthur Bishop, and you can call me Russell or Russ. Whatever works for you is fine with me. And so that we can get through to the important part of this webinar presentation as quick as possible, I will keep a long story short. And so I stand here before you today with a story that has a history of tragedy and triumph. As a youngster, I grew up within a place known as Essex, which is a county on the outskirts of London in the United Kingdom, where my family environment was a classic rags to riches story, in that during my childhood, my parents came into new money. And as a result of that, I became what is known as a spoilt brat. I was given everything and I valued nothing. And I did everything that a spoilt little brat would do to cause mayhem and mess. Fast forward, by the time I was 16, I was a weekend drug abuser and binge drinker, abusing cannabis, LSD, ecstasy, and whatever booze that I could find and guzzle down my hedonistic neck. Fast forward some more, by the time I was 34 years of age, I was a raging and yet functioning cocaine addict and alcoholic that had somehow managed to settle down with a woman, father 3 children, build and manage a business that afforded a somewhat extravagant lifestyle. The kind of extravagance that meant I had a £250,000 motor yacht, a luxury toy, moored down on the south coast of England that was costing me £2,500 a weekend just to use the damn thing. And like they say, the best 2 days of having a boat is when you buy it and sell it, because everything in between is the stress and huge maintenance costs of owning and using a boat. But getting back to the point, the life that I had cultivated was one of immense stress and huge debt. And I was abusing drink and hard drugs to ease the suffering of stress and misery and to get some pleasurable escapism from a life that I wasn't coping with. I had cultivated this monstrosity of a life where I was a slave to the money and on this daily hamster wheel of trying to service these huge debts just to keep the luxurious lifestyle going. I'd cultivated a life that was distressing me, that was untenable, and that was violating every aspect of my true nature. I had become someone I was not meant to be. I'd become a rags to riches archetype. I'd become a version of my parents. I had become this perversion of the real me. But here's the thing. I didn't know that I had constructed this huge, egotistical, narcissistic, sociopathic, delusional, and somewhat predatory persona. I didn't know that I had constructed this social mask. I didn't even know the real man behind the mask. I was so busy looking for myself out there in the world, trying to pursue the quote-unquote successful life, trying to get status, and utterly concerned with trying to be the big I am, that I hadn't discovered nor developed who I was in here. My entire life was a reflection of everything that society had projected onto me. And as a result of living a feigned life as this fake persona that was experiencing immense stress whilst addicted to powerful mind-bending and soul-destroying drugs and alcohol, was that I ended up experiencing this complete and utter breakdown, where I started to struggle for many years to juggle this lifestyle that was ill-suited for me. And I slowly came undone into this cataclysmic mess where over the course of about 8 years, I went through 5 failed careers, 4 failed businesses, 2 bankruptcies, asset repossessions, a hard split from my partner that ended up in the courts, and separation from my 3 children, in which I have experienced 3 mental breakdowns, a financial rock bottom, where I've been homeless for long periods of time, and where I have even had a few brief spells of living down and out on the streets, where I was so broke that it was just me, a tent, and some clothes. And those are the kind of life experiences that make you go, ouch, that really hurts. And throughout most of that lifestyle chaos, I suffered in silence, with every bridge to the people that I loved blown to smithereens and covered in a dust pile of broken promises. And listen, back then my life was a bitter, sour symphony. It was a bad orchestration of feeling worthless, purposeless, loveless, and hopeless. I had submerged into the cold and desolate depths of an apocalyptic despair, of which I was severely depressed for over 1.5 years and living in abject misery. It was the kind of depression that left me bedridden for many days and where I would remain indoors like a broken hermit. It was a time in my life where I despised every genetic fibre of the barbaric ogre that I thought I was. And there was a stage at which I thought I had lost my marbles. I was unable to make sense of a mind that was fragmented into troubled pieces, where the decades of substance abuse had performed this chemical lobotomy And so back then, in every way that I viewed myself, I was this grotesque mess, this empty shell of a man, this shadow of my former shadow, where my entire life ripped apart and disintegrated into nothing, where I spent many years of life bouncing along a hard rock bottom, unable to catch a break, unable to experience happiness, security, or love. It was an awful time, the kind that I would not wish upon anyone, and yet despite all of that, I am still here. I am still standing. I'm feeling happier and stronger and more loving and determined than ever. Today, I live a life that is the full embodiment and expression of my truest, highest, and fullest potential. But how? How did I get through and then emerge from all of that tragedy to become the triumph? Well, as the result of my lifestyle collapse, I had experienced this awakening event. On one not so fine day back in my past, I had this profound awakening. It was during my lowest ebb, in my darkest hour, when I was unable to see any beauty inside the beast, when I realized that I couldn't carry on with all of that suffering, where I had sadly reasoned that I would rather be dead than feel the excruciating pains of staying alive. I had reached a point where I just couldn't go on as I was. I was sick and tired of making these huge mistakes that caused so much pain. And I had resigned to the fact that it was me, that I was the cause of all my affliction, that I could not continue living as me. And what I didn't know at the time, that I had finally surrendered. I had finally surrendered my ego. In that moment of surrender, I experienced a profound insight and realization. Within seconds, my entire life had flashed before my eyes as though I was this outsider looking into my complete life story. With lucid clarity, and for the first time, I could see that I was running away from the truths of me. I was running away from the truths of all the mistakes that I had made. I was running away from my fears and insecurities. Throughout my entire life, I was trying so desperately hard to become someone else, someone that I thought I should be, someone that society said I should be, someone like my parents and my friends. And in doing so, I was running towards these cultural ideals of the successful life, where I had mistakenly believed that I needed to earn lots of money to get status and possessions in which to feel significant, worthy, lovable, and likable. And in trying to find who I was out there, I lost who I was in here. I had developed this outward persona that was vain, superficial, and materialistic, whilst the truth of me, the person inside, was someone I neglected, someone I denied, someone that I criticized and frowned upon, someone that I had persecuted for not being good, strong, or worthy enough. Who I truly was inside was a huge part of me that was left unnurtured, undeveloped, unknowing, unloved, and living within the fears and insecurities of uncertainty. And so I had built this mask, which was the outward persona, where the outward persona was faking it because my genuine self was too afraid to make it. As the fake persona, I had become a man on a mission impossible. I was self-deceptive, in self-denial, and living a distorted life that was beyond my authentic capabilities. I was engaging with life experiences that stimulated the fake persona, and yet they caused immense suffering to the inward person, which was the truth of me. And because my feigned life experiences did not feed my soul, there was nothing out there that could fulfill this growing void within. Inside of me was this growing void of unmet potential. The unmet potential was the innate talents, strengths, and skills of my true nature that were neglected and yet gasping with discontent for expression. Who I was deep inside was deeply unsatisfied, deeply upset, deeply disappointed, and deeply confused with the life that I was living on the outside. It was such a troublesome void of emptiness, discontent, and suffering that I needed more and more consumption, entertainment, distraction, and chemical alleviation in which to suppress and pacify that internal suffering. And it was only when my entire lifestyle had collapsed that my persona collapsed with it. That's because my persona was a superficial mask that was attached to and stimulated by the externals of my life. And once those externals were gone, i.e. the home, the money, the possessions, the people, the experiences, the everything that had affirmed my fake persona, once all of that was gone, I fell inwards. I fell inwards into this void of unknowingness and nothingness because the person within was so lost, so unknowing, so weak. And so at 36 years of age, after 3 decades of living as this fake egoic persona, when that persona collapsed, I was left in a place of utter mental desolation. I was this man-child, a person with childish logic trapped inside an adult's body. Those decades of habitual drug and drink abuse, egocentrism and self-denial, they had frozen over my intellect and emotions, leaving me with the mental capacity of a naive, immature and irresponsible schoolboy. And so, as a consequence of my awakening event, I then embarked on 2 massive life-changing journeys. One was the inner journey of self-discovery, and the other was to discover how the world out there actually works. And what followed was 8 years of intensive self-development, rebuilding myself from the inside out, which involved extensive research, study, and application of psychotherapy, psychology, philosophy, spirituality, astrology, nutrition, health, and fitness, where I mastered myself. And in mastering myself, I managed to overcome the negative karma of my past problems and overcome my attachments and addictions. And what I discovered about human psychology is this. Beyond the egoic mind with its fears, prejudice, anxieties, deceptions, limited beliefs, and never-ending unhappiness, I have discovered a sacred realm of inner peace and completeness within me, where I am happy to be me, the true me, without the need to have anyone or anything to define myself and define my happiness. I discovered that I am pure conscious awareness that is free from the limitations and inferiorities of the conditioned mind, that I am the observer and creator of the mind, that I am not the passenger of the mind, but I am instead the driver of my mind. And after many years of self-discovery, where I became more self-knowledgeable and self-aware, I aligned with my intuition and spiritual principle, and I began to express and develop my true nature. So, who did I actually become? Well, I'm not someone that likes labels, but if you want to pigeonhole me, then you could say that I'm a psychotherapist, a spiritual guide, and a lifestyle strategist, in that I have the wisdom, experiences, knowledge and skills in which to help someone resolve their mental and emotional issues, help them to discover and align with their innate talents, strengths and skills of their true nature. And I can assist someone with finding the most effective, efficient and elegant way of creating a lifestyle of deeper meaning, higher purpose and greater impact. You could say that I am now a man on a divine mission that is here to uplift the human spirit and be the exemplar of goodness, prosperity, truth and love, of which I have created the Mind Games brand and community to do just that. And also I have founded the Grace Trust, which is a not-for-profit organization that focuses on humanitarian projects. And so my personal story serves as both the warning, wisdom, and the way. I am the living testament that no matter what problems you face right now, with a loving spirit, warm heart, and the right mindset, not only can you rise above circumstances, you can also excel to far greater heights. I am someone that clearly demonstrates that I have been there, done that, overcome this, and here's how I did it. I was that guy who walked the 5 yards of hell and against the odds made a miraculous turnaround and comeback. And what took me over half a lifetime to experience, and making these massive mistakes over and over to figure things out, and then making the corrections to get the right results. When you learn and apply my teachings, you can get the lifestyle results that you truly desire in a fraction of the time. And I also know deep within that your intuitive spirit has guided you to be with me here today, that your intention to go on this powerful life journey to exalt every aspect of who you are, to awaken and activate the true you, a true you that is loving, abundant and joyful, has been answered by the universal force. That intention has guided you right here with me today, because there is a part of you deep within that wants to become more, to express, create, give and love more. A part of you which is destined for greater achievements. A part of you that is ready for expression.